Hello, welcome back to Energy 101. In this video, our third video for week 3, I'm excited to welcome Dr. Alexis Abramson, who is here to tell us about energy and the built environment. Welcome, Alexis.
Hi, it's so nice to be here. I'm Alexis Abramson. I'm the Dean of the Thayer School of Engineering here at Dartmouth, and I've been working on buildings and building efficiency for a number of years in research and in the startup company that I have, and along with folks in government and venture capital and other places. So I'm really excited to be here and talk about buildings.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, we're very, very happy to have you. Thank you for being here. So let's jump right in. So I'm going to ask you a very broad question to start, which is how do we use energy in our buildings? And can you tell us a little bit about what types of fuels we use as sources of that energy in buildings?
Sure. So, buildings, a lot of people, when they think about energy, they often, and energy consumption and saving energy and all of that, they don't think about buildings, which is so interesting because we're often so connected to how energy is generated, right? Burning fossil fuels, generating electricity, and don't often think about the usage side of that and how we minimize that. But about 40% of direct and indirect emissions come from our usage of a variety of different devices and systems and equipment in buildings. So things like, of course, a big energy hog is heating and cooling in most parts of the globe, uses a lot of energy. Lighting as well uses a good amount of energy, even water heating too. And then of course we have appliances, right? All the appliances in your kitchen or equipment, industrial equipment used to manufacture and make things as well uses a lot of energy, even just down to the electric devices, right? All the iPhones that we have and computers, which tend to be much more energy efficient these days, even compared to past decades, but are growing in numbers. More and more people around the globe are using more and more, and that's also leading to more use of energy in buildings and where you're plugging things into sockets. And in terms of where is that energy coming from? Of course, on the heating side, particularly in cold climates, a lot of the heat, most of the heating across the globe is coming from direct burning of fossil fuels. So in most parts of our country in the United States, burning natural gas, for example, and doing that directly at the building, at the house, at the commercial building, wherever it is, burning that fossil fuel and generating the heat directly from the heat that you get from that burning. But then also electricity, which usually is generated in some kind of central plant in sort of the wealthier countries. That's what's going on. And that electricity then goes through transmission lines and ultimately distribution lines to the different buildings so that we can use that electricity for all of those other different applications that consume energy.
Great, thank you for that. Energy efficiency is so important right now. And with our changing climate, how does that impact energy use and efficiency in buildings? And can you tell us a little bit about what are some of the things we're doing about those challenges?
Sure. So actually, it's great that from a systems perspective, our systems, our heating and cooling systems, our electronic devices, our appliances, our water heaters are all getting more and more efficient. Refrigerators are a good example. If you look at the efficiency of refrigerators, that efficiency has really gone up significantly over the past few decades without an impact on cost. So a consumer, relatively speaking, considering inflation, is paying about the same for a refrigerator as they paid in the 1970s. But those refrigerators are much, much more energy efficient. So we see all these great enhancements to those devices, appliances, systems, all of that. What's happening, though, is that we're using more and more of them. Square footage, for example, in buildings has been increasing, particularly in the United States, quite a bit. Population growth, couple that with population growth, couple that with more appliance usage, additional electronic devices. And so while our devices and systems are getting more efficient, we're using more and more of them. And so those two effects are sort of canceling each other out in large part. And you see that happening in other parts of the world, that where you also have wealthy countries. In the developing world, you see energy efficiency or energy consumption in buildings going up because, again, more square footage is being built, population growth, more connection to economic growth, which is great. You want people in the developing world to have access to washing machines and refrigerators and cooling systems in hot climates. Because that then enables them to lead better lives. And we, of course, want that. But you see the building usage, energy usage in buildings significantly increasing in developing countries because of the skyrocketing of those effects. So it's interesting, again, to see how we're having an impact, but we actually need to do a lot more in all parts of the globe in order to save more energy at the system level, and to be able to create systems that are interconnected and smarter and more intelligent that enable more saving of energy as well at the building level in order to have the kind of impact we have to have in the face of climate change.
Great, thank you for that. So in thinking about how our energy use in buildings is different and how we can incorporate energy efficiency in different places in different parts of the world. What are some of the social implications or equity concerns that are around energy efficiency in buildings? Does everyone have kind of equal access to different forms of energy efficiency, or are there any issues around that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the best things we can do to save energy in buildings is construct them at a high quality and with quality materials, with thick insulated walls, for example, particularly in most parts of the globe. Having a high quality envelope actually means you don't need nearly as much heating and or cooling. But that requires a lot of upfront capital costs, even in our country, right? To build a high quality home, for example, can be twice as expensive as building up an okay quality home might be. And so that access to upfront capital, right, and the impact that might have on your monthly mortgage, for example, is a real concern. But we have to build buildings better. In order to meet climate goals, we're going to have to make buildings 2 to 3 times more energy efficient than they are today. And the best way to do that is really by building the envelope. Because as I said before, a lot of the appliances and equipment are pretty cost competitive to some extent, right? Refrigerators cost about the same as what they did, inflation adjusted in the 1970s. But the building envelope, we haven't figured out a way to kind of bring those upfront costs down and incentivize people to build that way. So it really does set up this inequity, because what ends up happening is over the lifetime of the building occupants, be them owners or renters, are paying more for their heating and cooling as a result. And if they're lower income, then it's a higher percentage of their income that they're using towards paying for heating and cooling that they absolutely deserve to take advantage of. But really, it ends up being a real financial burden on them. And so again, if we had better incentives, better financing, even more creative business models to help incentivize building better building envelopes, that would certainly help in the long run in terms of reducing the financial burden on everybody.
All right, thank you so much. So what would you say right now are kind of the biggest challenges in increasing the efficiency of the built environment? You've touched on this a little bit, but what's the kind of 1 or 2 things that you think are really the biggest challenges that we need to overcome right now in order to get to that point of energy efficiency that you were talking about, in order to kind of reach our climate goals and even maybe social justice goals?
probably what I would point to, the most important one is this idea of, in new construction, building the higher quality buildings, a real big obstacle there that we've got to figure out how to overcome. And there's some great ideas out there, I should say, and some things happening on the policy horizon to help incentivize, but in very few parts of the world. The other thing I might point to is on the retrofit side. So we still will, in the year 2050, still have about half of our buildings that exist today will still exist in the year 2050. Actually, probably a bit more than that. And so those buildings either will be very old and will definitely, need to have had retrofits between now and 2050, or certainly maybe they're being built now and they'll need retrofits in 2050 as a result. And that also is a big obstacle. We're retrofitting globally about 1% to 2% of buildings a year. We really need to kind of double to triple that. We need to see a big increase in the number of buildings that are being retrofit in order to achieve the climate goals that we need to achieve. And again, that is often a financing issue as well. It's also a sort of a intelligence issue. From that, I mean, a lot of times people have no way of knowing how good or bad their buildings are, how energy efficient is my building is oftentimes a difficult thing for a homeowner, even a commercial building owner, to know or find out. You can hire people to come do energy audits, but that can be upwards of $10,000 or more dollars to bring somebody in and do an energy audit. There are some energy efficiency programs out there run by the utilities or by the states, often, where you can get somebody in and do a rough kind of energy audit of your home or your building, and that's great. But we really need to kind of overcome this hurdle of making that of that being so expensive. Using more data analytics around sort of your building or your electricity meters, for example, being able to take your electricity data and run an analysis on it without having anybody step foot into the building and be able to say, hey, from this analysis, it seems that your windows are likely a really poor. And here, by the way, if you replace them, the payback is 7 years. Oh, and here's a financing mechanism to help you give the upfront costs. So there are a lot of pieces and parts to the retrofit, and that's why it's sort of complex and hard to address. But really, we need to figure this out in order to achieve those climate goals.
All right. So before we wrap up, is there anything else that you would like to tell us about buildings and energy or energy efficiency, or anything that kind of didn't come up in our conversation yet that you'd sort of like to close with?
I think, one thing I really want to emphasize is the need to focus on building efficiency, be it from a user standpoint or a technology standpoint or a utility standpoint. Oftentimes in the discussions about climate change, we sort of get lost in the energy generation piece of the puzzle. And if we can reduce the energy consumption piece, right, significantly, then we actually have to build less renewable energy infrastructure in order to support it. And looking at the analyses, the models that are done, this is absolutely possible to do in buildings. Will we need technological innovation? Absolutely. We need to make progress in a variety of different fronts in order to have even greater impact in the building space. But even right now, there are cost-effective solutions out there that can help us really achieve those goals. Many of the challenges that we face as humans, we don't know the solutions for, right? Here, we actually know the solutions. We know kind of what we need to do to get there, or to get partway there, with some technological innovation helping us even push a little more. And so it really is going to take kind of that interweaving of the technology companies, the investors, the policymakers, and the humans that are using these buildings, the appliances, the heating, the cooling in the buildings, in order to kind of work together and have the kind of impact that we need to have. So I think it's possible. It's absolutely possible. It's just going to be a complex problem we're going to have to continue to work on as we move forward.
All right, thank you again to Alexis for joining us. Now, next up, we'll be having our live discussion session, which will be on Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. So make sure you tune into that on Zoom, and we will see you there. Bye-bye.